Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Talking Tactics Daily. My name is Daniel Tiluk. Remember to listen to the actual Talking Tactics podcast with me, Have Hope, and Carl Anka that comes out every week. It's wherever you listen to podcasts. And this week, Have Hope and I talked about Xabi Alonso being sacked and all AFCON permutations. So I encourage everybody to check that out. In any event, let's just get to the show. So we had news today which broke that Marc Guéhi, Crystal Palace center back, will be joining Manchester City. That's what all the reporting looks like. Ornstein, Fab, all the people that we trust with football news are like, nah, the contract has been signed. All that's now is to work out what the fee is going to be and the structuring of that fee. So that's the shoe that needed to drop for Manchester City in this window. Obviously, they got Semenyo in earlier for, I believe, 60 something million pounds. Guehi was the one that they needed, though. You don't have Stones, you don't have Diaz. The trust seems to be gone in Nathan Ake. There's just basically no central defenders of repute that Pep Guardiola, that guy, wants to be playing. So they needed to go out and find the next best solution. And 20 million pounds for Marc Guéhi, who would have been a target for a lot of teams in the summer window, getting him through the door on a 5.5 year contract. The reporting that I saw in a group chat said £300,000 a week. So what I was worried about from the Guehi point of view was, why can't you just sign a pre-contract in the winter window and you can stay at Crystal Palace while still getting the most money that you can get for this contract? I was reliably informed by somebody on Blue Sky that you can't sign a pre-contract in the same league. So let's say I'm a Crystal Palace player and I'm in the last 6 months of my deal. If the club is foreign, so think Spain, Germany, France, Italy, you can sign a pre-contract with those clubs. But any Premier League club, you can't sign a pre-contract with them. So I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So I didn't know that until today. I was like, bro, Guehi, like, why can't you just sign the pre-contract with Manchester City, finish this season with Crystal Palace, and then after the World Cup, presumably you'll have a good World Cup. Are there any obvious center backs starting ahead of him for England? Not really. I mean, there's parity between English center backs at the moment, but you don't put names like Harry Maguire or someone like that ahead of Guehi. Like, that's not happening. So I was like, bro, why can't you just wait and get the signing bonus that free agents tend to get, most often get, when they come on a free transfer? But the way that they've done it, the math that I've done is his contract is about 86 million in total. So that's a pretty good number. If he did it the customary way of 5 years and £200,000 a week, which is still a great raise, and over 52 weeks, I think he'd be and the signing bonus, he'd be near about the same money, you would think, because he's not going to get some Real Madrid Kylian Mbappe type signing bonus. He's going to get 30, 40 million maybe at best. So if you add it all together, the moment he signs the contract, it's guaranteed money. He goes to City. He's not going to lose any game time. And he's going to have a chance this season to win something, because it does seem like Manchester City are quite serious, as it seemed last year, at trying to win a Premier League or a Champions League. So last summer, they went crazy. They spent on Nico Gonzalez and who are the other players that they bought? They bought the young center back. Oh, starts with a K. Why am I missing his name? Kuzanov? Yeah. And they bought someone else. Oh, I should have written it down. They brought somebody from Brazil. I want to say another center back from Brazil, Marmouche. Omar Marmoush, who's at AFCON with Egypt presently. We'll get to that. So they went crazy last year around this time, and they've gone and spent, if you add 20 plus 64, like in the 84 million range, and we're halfway through the month. So there's certain intent by Pep Guardiola, Manchester City board, that the areas that need solving, we need to fix it, and ASAP. The interesting permutation for me is Ollie Glasner is announced today that he is leaving Crystal Palace. And part of that, I would think, is because you're selling all of his good players. So I think he was there when Michael Olise was around. They got rid of him, or not got rid of him, but like Crystal Palace are a selling club at the end of the day, or they're just a club that players of a decent level see as a stepping stone. So nobody's trying to stay at Crystal Palace for their whole career, unless they get kind of their arm twisted into it, like a Wilf Zaha stayed at Crystal Palace way too long. But even if you think back in the day, a club like Crystal Palace gave someone like Ian Wright his chance at the big time. But it's not like he's not so loyal to Crystal Palace that he's not going to go to Arsenal. You know what I mean? So that it's a club that can help you, but I don't think it's a final destination type place. So for someone like Guehi, again, I was just more concerned that make sure that you're maximizing the profit that you can make within your career. I don't know how many big contracts he's going to have. Center backs play good ones anyway, play until they're 35, 36, 37. So he'll have another contract for sure. But so my thinking was this the right time for him to move as opposed to in the summer? And it looks like that's going to be the case. And I'm glad that his kind of representatives, or maybe him, I don't know if he's doing deals. And, there's some players that do their own contracts and stuff like that. I wouldn't advise it, but if you're good at it, because was it last year sometime Gary Neville pulled out his contracts on the Overlap show with Roy Keane and Ian Wright and Jamie Carragher and those guys, Wayne Rooney, and they were going through Gary Neville's contracts, and they were like, "What is this?" And Gary Neville was basically like, he went into the boardroom with Sir Alex, and they banged out the contract between the two. Like, he didn't need an agent. Maybe he got someone to look over the language or whatever, but he didn't have a guy go in there and haggle for Sir Alex because he wanted stability. So, and Wayne Rooney was like, I was on $300,000 a week. And Carragher was like, nah, you should have been on more than that. Because, if you think about it, your career went da-da-da-da-da. So maybe Guehi's one of those where he does his own negotiations. But I would think if you're getting £300,000 a week from Manchester City, someone in his camp, whoever his agent is, well done. Well done. But no, back to Glasner. You can't stay. If you have ambitions for your own coaching career, Crystal Palace really isn't the place where you want to be. If you're a Roy Hodgson or one of those, and it's the end of your career, the tail end of it, fine. Go Crystal Palace, and you'll probably be in the Premier League more times than not. But it's not a place for a manager who's won the Europa League with Frankfurt recently, and then he's won an FA Cup. That's a decent resume. Your stock isn't going to be higher than it is now. And I don't think you can risk, from his point of view, having a season next year where your best player, defender anyway, is gone. Likely. I want to look up. Bear with me. Let me see. I want to look up how many years Adam Wharton has on his contract. I probably should have done this before because I know he's linked with Spurs at the moment. 21-year-old left-footed England international whose contract expires in 2029, according to Transfermarkt. So you've sold your best defender. There are murmurings that one of your best midfielders, arguably your best midfielder, is going to Spurs. And if Crystal Palace are the Crystal Palace that we know, 2029, I mean, after this season, he'll have 26, 27, 28, 29. Maybe you get another season, but like you could easily see if Wharton goes to the World Cup and has a good World Cup, he could be sold for a lot of money, certainly with 3 years left on his deal. And Glasner would then be like, what do I do? Who do I have? Are you going to reinvest that money? Like, what's going on? So I think the Glasner decision to announce he's leaving Crystal Palace was something that he probably thought about last year when Guehi was in a similar situation. And now that he's gone, for sure, it's kind of just tipped him over the edge. And I think it puts someone like Michael Carrick in an interesting position. Not just Michael Carrick, but it puts pressure on all interim or hot seat coaches, certainly in England, because I think Glasner's stock is probably more high in England and the Bundesliga more than anywhere. So Carrick was announced as, I was going to call him Chelsea, Manchester United's interim manager or interim head coach. I haven't looked up the press briefing, but they probably called him a head coach, let's be honest. And so they have a game against Manchester City today, depending on when you listen to this. Yesterday even, depending on when you listen to it. January 17th, that's when they play. So who knows how the Michael Carrick tenure is going to go. He beat out Ali, so that's step number one. So if he can reach the objectives, perhaps Manchester United are like, hey, let's see what we got and roll the dice. But I don't think there's any way that Michael Carrick is going to be Manchester United head coach next season. And if you add Glasner to Maresca, I've even written the names down here. So there's Glasner, who's going to be available in the summer. Maresca, who's already available. Xabi Alonso would never go to Manchester United. We know that. But Xavi, maybe. Jurgen Klopp also would never go. Zidane is waiting for France. But Luis Enrique's out there. Tuchel and Nagelsmann are the more interesting ones. I don't think Carlo Ancelotti is one of the World Cup contingent that's looking at Manchester United, or I think Carlo could probably stay at Brazil for as long as he wants. Lifetime contract for Carlo in Brazil. So insofar as he can get Vini and Rodrigo and Rafinha and the rest of them on board. What's he going to do with Neymar? We don't know. Would you take Neymar to the World Cup just for the hell of it? I don't think you should, but there's a question I need to ask Hope. There's a lot of managerial transition at the moment, and you either have to use a American baseball analogy. You have to hit a home run if you're an interim or a hot seat coach. The only new one that's probably safe is Chelsea's one, because they just gave him like a 6.5 year contract. So he's not going anywhere unless he just flames out in the next 2-3 months and wins like one game or 2 games out of 13 or some crazy something like that. And the Chelsea fans just riot. But there's a lot of clubs that you could see being in transition. And Manchester United are certainly one. Liverpool could get there. I guess we'll talk about that. We'll touch on that maybe in a second. Real Madrid for sure. PSG are going to have to be in transition because Enrique's out. Chelsea are always in and around it. The only major big clubs that I feel are safe and sound, that we know what's going on with them next season: Barcelona and Bayern Munich. The rest of them, you can easily see Pep just saying, nah, this is it. This is my last year. Arne Slot leaving or being sacked or not retained for next season. Arbeloa, I don't know what that experiment is. You're losing to Albacete in the Copa del Rey. There's still a Clásico to come. If they get slapped up in there, like, who knows? So there's a lot of transition that I think the summer managerial market will be more interesting and have more storylines and permutations and will he, won't he than the players, which is, I think, a sickness in football broadly, that the managers and the coaches have become more relevant than the players. And I don't remember that being the case when I was a kid. I think like maybe Wenger was one of the first coaches that I just remember being like, or I guess Sir Alex in that way. But was Sir Alex, I don't know, someone who lived through it and was there in Manchester and England at the time would have to tell me, like, was Sir Alex, was his figure, did it loom larger than the superstars of like Beckham and Keane and Cantona and those guys? I should text Paul. I should ask Paul. That's a Paul question. I was like, who would know Manchester United from like the 80s and 90s or early 2000s, or just the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and the early 2010s. But once Mourinho and Wenger and, you know, that whole crew came together, I feel like it's changed how football is viewed. Then you had Mourinho against Pep and all of that. Half Open, I lament this all the time, but it used to be when Chelsea were playing Arsenal, you would see Didier Drogba, Thierry Henry, Frank Lampard, Thierry Henry, John Terry, Thierry Henry. It would be like some combination of players. But now, when Chelsea play Arsenal, it was Mikel Arteta against Liam Rosenior. It's just like, I want to say Roy Sr. so badly, but I know that's not the correct pronunciation. It's just like, oh, Manchester City are playing Manchester United. It's a tactical battle between Michael Carrick and Pep Guardiola. It's like, what happened to the star players being the dudes? Like, it should be, if you're gonna market it, Bruno against Haaland. Like, who's gonna be more effective offensively or something like that? But it's never that these days. So that's lamentable. But I think the way the game is gone, the decisions that managers and coaches are making are largely more influential at times than what a player who has individual brilliance can provide. So that's sad. Before we get, I never imported that picture. I do want to take a look at the table. So you'll forgive me that this thing looks square or whatever, but I haven't made any adjustments to it. So Arsenal are on 49 points. Manchester City are on 43 points. And so are Aston Villa. Liverpool, we'll get to them in a second. So I think if you're Pep Guardiola, again, you're looking at this Premier League table and you're thinking, Arsenal aren't playing the most convincing football at the moment. They're winning. But there's a lot of long throws. There's a lot of corners. There's a lot of set pieces. Their football isn't entertaining, fun to watch. I don't think they're dominating games through possession and all of that. Although I say that, they are. It's just when you can get corners and score through corners, it's a very efficient way to score. It's just that the way that they're winning is not pleasing to me, but I don't want to besmirch the way that they're playing. In order to win corners, you need to have the ball. In order to get set pieces, you need to win fouls. Set pieces meaning like free kicks. In order to win free kicks, you need to have the ball. You need to have possession. So they're doing things with the ball, obviously, because that's what makes them dangerous on set pieces. However, it just feels like that's their main goal-scoring threat at the moment. It's certainly not Gyökeres unless Sanchez wants to throw him the ball. It's not Jesus. It's not Havertz. It's not Odegaard. It's not even Saka or Martinelli. It's own goal and Declan Rice and Saka corners meeting whoever's in the box. So I feel like if you're looking at that, though, from a Pep Guardiola perspective, you're like, can't we? Shouldn't we? Isn't there a chance that we can? Because like our football is better than their football. I mean, the goal difference is even, and we're not as mighty from set pieces. We've scored more goals than them. So all we got to do is just add the right piece, and perhaps Guehi and those guys can be the right piece. So we'll see tomorrow in the Manchester derby what transpires. I would expect Manchester City to win quite handily. To their who's a more bitter rival for Manchester United? It's got to be Liverpool. It's certainly not Manchester City. Manchester City has the rivalry with Manchester United, but United looks at them like the little brothers. So there's a similar story here in North Carolina where UNC and NC State are like the proximate rivals in a sense, certainly in a football sense, meaning American football. But Duke versus North Carolina is like the big one. And I think that's like the legacy one. And I think that's more Manchester United and Liverpool. And Manchester City are the NC State. Let me not get into my own weeds here. You guys will just have to go look up old school Michael Jordan, David Thompson, it's there. In any event, sorry. A college basketball tangent on a football show. My fault. Arne Slot wants Mohamed Salah back. I think he told reporters that if he had 15 available players, wingers, forwards, whatever the verbiage was, he would still want Salah back. So what's old and forgotten is new. That's the saying. And Salah perhaps has been gone away from the Liverpool camp for so long that Arne Slot is happily willing to bring back a player who scored 200-something goals for the club, however many assists, and give him a chance. He'll come back into the squad, and as they say, it will be like a new signing. And they'll add Mohamed Salah back into a team that's okay. Decent team offensively, I would say. I was going to say defensively, but I'm like, nah. Van Dijk has been bad. Konate has been bad. Caracas has had like one good game this season. The right wing back or the right fullback situation. I mean, Frimpong is a fullback, but the right fullback situation is not it. Frimpong, he's offensively skilled, but defensively challenged. You lose Connor Bradley for the season. Haven't figured out the Trent Alexander-Arnold ramifications. So just going through their defense. Playing Szoboszlai at right back has been their best solution, arguably. So adding just someone who could maybe make up for a defensive mistake in Mohamed Salah, I think is important. So I was wondering what the kind of tenor of Mohamed Salah's return would be to Liverpool, and it seems like it's going to be open arms and welcome back. Probably he'll be captain or something. If Van Dijk doesn't have the armband, then I guess it's fine. So, but they have to wait. It's not this weekend, even though Egypt were eliminated by Senegal, because the Africa Cup of Nations finishes on the weekend. So Egypt play Nigeria in the third place game on Saturday. So whenever you listen to this. And then on Sunday, the big one. I guess we'll talk about that tomorrow. But third place games. Traditionally fun, but for me, a bit of nonsense. Do we need to know who the third place team is in a knockout competition? I don't think so. Only in the Olympics where they give out bronze medals. And even sometimes, you know how in boxing, both of the combatants get bronze medal. Like if you lose in the semifinal, you get the bronze medal. They don't make them fight. But sometimes there's actually third place on the line and the winner gets a medal and the loser doesn't. I feel like that's the only reason you should have a third place game is when third place actually matters to your entire entity. And the only place where that actually matters is the Olympics. I don't need a third place game at AFCON, but I'll take more AFCON. I'll take more AFCON. Because it doesn't matter, because nobody is going to spin a narrative about we have the third place trophy and you don't, or we finished third and you didn't. I think largely it just gives a team that shouldn't have lost in the semifinal playing likely a team that should have lost in the semifinal, and it gives them a chance to just feel good. So in all likelihood, Nigeria wins on tomorrow or today, whenever you're listening. And I guess Nigerians, some, like the three of them, will feel good about third place. And if Egypt were to win, the two Egyptians that will feel good about third place will be fine. But like ultimately, those are two nations that aren't competing for third place. They're competing to win the thing. So I would expect a lot of changes. People who haven't played will get their, AFCON debut, their 2025 AFCON debut. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but we're all just waiting for Senegal against Morocco. I have no idea what to expect from that game. I'll think about it a little bit, but there's no point for me to just sit here and ramble. Not that much has transpired. So, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. This has been Talking Tactics Daily. Remember to listen to the actual podcast, Talking Tactics Podcast. Also, it's reversed, so it's probably over here, isn't it? With me, myself, and I. No. With me, Have Hope, and Carl Anka. Yes, that is the Talking Tactics Podcast. This is the YouTube side piece. Leave a comment, do all the YouTube things. Let me get out of here.